Hi, Paridhi ma'am. We are deeply honored to have you for this interview. Thank you so much for taking out time to join us today from your busy schedule. To start with, could you kindly give us a brief overview of your business idea and explain how it came to life?
Hi, Ishita. Thank you for having me over. I'm equally, honored that you thought of me for your noble thing that you're doing, and it's your determination that that you really wanted to have this interview. That's why we are having it on a Sunday evening.
Thank you.
About me, I'm Paridhi, and the company that I run is ConView Private Limited. ConView is a short form of Consumer Viewpoint. It's a full-fledged consumer research organization wherein we do quantitative and qualitative and many other kinds of researches, get insights into the consumer's lifestyle, and draw certain inferences, insights from the consumers, what they want to say about the brand, about the product, about the overall their psychology, etc., and uh, give those insights to the companies for them to take meaningful decisions. In simplistic word, if you were to know, we are the bridge between the company and its consumers. Because let's say, for example, PepsiCo or Lay's chips wouldn't really know, the company wouldn't really know who's the consumer who's buying me, right? So we are that bridge that tell them that who it is, why, when, where, and many other things, like I said. Now, how did I come to it? So honestly, after doing my MBA, started my first career was with MNC called as IMRB, now Kantar. It's a UK based WPP part of group company. And I believe that I figured it out that this is my calling. Like I was so happy with my work for initial 4.5 years that I was with that company, that I knew that this is something that I really enjoy doing. And back then in 2012, I somebody founded a company and wanted me to be the first employee of that company. Back then, startups were not so much in fashion. Let me tell you that. But I took that plunge because it was the kind of work we were doing consumer research in slightly different fashion that excited me. So I took that plunge, and I think I was rewarded beautifully because within a year I became the partner in that company. So we are only the two partners who were running that company. I so back then, 2012, I started my first venture, which was called as Varenia, and it was also in consumer research domain. After 5 6 years, I kind of sold off my equity, made some money, traveled a bit, and when I was thinking what next to do, I came across this person who's also running a startup, but in the manufacturing domain, who was making sanitary pads and baby diapers. So he kind of approached me because we had done a couple of projects for him. So then he said that, why don't you come on board and join me? So, which was again a very lucrative thing because he said that the consumer researches or the insights that you draw, you should also see that how the clients implement them and help us implement them. So that was interesting. I joined them. A bit about Sood Healthcare also because it was also a startup, while not my own venture, but I learned a lot because it was a manufacturing startup. So I started consumer insights department over there. Then within no time, I handled the marketing department because it was a very small team. I launched their first ad, by the way. Then I formed the new product department over there, and we launched a couple of more products. Then I started heading the product and the packaging department. So it went very, very smooth and very, very well for me. I think I learned a lot because when you are in a startup, see, what does a MNC do? MNC will tell you that, there is a problem with the right front wheel of the car, and you will be an expert in fixing that. But when you are in a startup, you can fix the entire car. You will ensure that you're fixing the entire car, that it is on the road. So you may not become a champion in just one process, but you kind of learn the overall thing. So that's exactly what happened at Sood Healthcare. And then then it was, I always had this company of mine which I opened later on because I believed, like I said, Ishita, that my calling was consumer insights. So I always had a company running in parallel, but of late it was more compelling thought that if I were to give my full attention, then will it be this manufacturing setup or will it be my own company? So I think the calling was pretty clear that, I want to switch completely and focus completely to this consumer research company of mine, because by the way, I did a couple of projects for some of the clients, and the model that I had built for them, which was a different way of tracking brand equity. So they quite liked it. And that's when I realized that, if I've piloted it with one or two clients, and if it has succeeded and they are pretty well in their streams, like their MNCs again, and if they are liking it, then, it is the time to make it big. It is the time to, run it through more companies. So that model of mine, more than other things that I do with the consumer research, that's something that really kind of kicked with me, that, why not make it big. It is something that I have thought through. It is something that I have put in my experience on. So let's see how it sees the days a day of light, and that's what it is. I mean, that's the idea. Consumer research is, I would say, I haven't innovated anything. This one model of mine is something that's new and interesting, which has seen that two clients it's got traction. So I'm trying to build it on. But otherwise, consumer research is a very, very well known category and business domain, and that's where my company is.
Well, that's very adventurous and interesting. Honestly, I believe that your passion and desire for entrepreneurship has made you be where you are today. So that's really very inspiring for many of us. My next question to you is that could you elaborate on the challenges you encountered when you first took the initiative, as well as the obstacles you currently face in managing your business? And being a woman, do you feel you faced any additional challenge that men counterparts don't?
Okay, so let's, like you said, let's break it into three parts. First is the challenges part, overall challenges, right? Irrespective of a woman or a man in entrepreneur, I think most people do come across challenges. Now, every sector has different challenges. Like, interestingly enough, I am in the service sector. I mean, my business is in the service sector, but I will also draw inferences from the manufacturing setup, because that was a startup and I worked over there. Right. So let me first talk about the challenges that I faced or we faced when we first started our venture. So, see, Ishita, what happens is every startup or whoever is starting, the process and the time and the infrastructure that's required to build upon something, that always is a challenge, right? Unless you have very deep pockets, that on day one you can, ensure that entire infrastructure is there, and then you will start, which mostly happens only with MNCs, right? Like, for example, if they want to enter India, they will first have a very structured office, they will have very high flying people as their employees, and that's when they will start. But that doesn't work when you're a new age entrepreneur, right? So the infrastructure, for example, if I were to talk very specific to my business, I just had come from a MNC wherein I use the brain power to read the data and make reports, right? Now, who does the field work? Who does the analysis part of it, right? And then of course business development, but business development was still easy because we were connected to the client. But the back end work of it, and mostly for all companies, I can talk from the manufacturing setup as well, selling is not such a big challenge. The challenge is setting it up, the manufacturing part of it, the back end part of it. And similarly for service also, I think the back end part of it, that, who will do your field work, who will do your analysis, what rate, are they reliable, are they not reliable? One part is that. And second part, I think, so challenge in the sense because you're not aware, and you do not, and we don't have a very readily available source with us, right? For example, it's not like that, I can just Google it up, or there is a directory in which I'll get 10 registered field agencies and their numbers and contact them, right? Or there is no common platform, or there's no common app from where you can reach out to these people. And again, it holds true for most of the businesses which are being set up, right? That it is little unorganized in India. It has to have a personal rapport with the other person for them to give you that rate, or for them to trust you that, you're going to pay them, and things like that, right? And from the manufacturing setup also, I've told you the back end and the manufacturing part of it. That's where it's very, very capex intensive. And I would say it's also very bureaucratic. There is a lot of red tapeism still. I mean, from if I were to talk from 2010 to now, 2020, I would say that it has definitely come down. Processes have become, and the government agencies have become smoother, but there is still a lot of bureaucracy involved, right? Things, for example, if I were to just say that second time when I set up my own organization, right, it took me almost 5 months to set up things, whereas it should have been done in 2 days. If I have an idea, if I want to form a organization, it honestly, Ishita, is a 2 day job, but it took some 5 6 months. I because of the resources, because of the way how things are, or how slow their systems and processes are. So one challenge is that is about the setting up of the organization. Now second challenge that you face, big challenge that you face is scaling it up, and therefore while you want to scale it up, process. Now that's a very individualistic trait, for anything that you want to make it process driven. Scalable, I believe, I strongly believe things are scalable only when you have a process, because as long as it is human driven, as long as it is individual driven, then it is not scalable, then it is very individualistic in nature. Only when you take the human traits out and make it very process driven machinery, that's when it becomes scalable. So setting up that process takes a lot of time and effort and that bent of mind, right? So you will work with, now there is human skill set also that's involved. So setting up of process is the second challenge that most entrepreneurs come across, that how to define it in the way a process should be defined. So those were the broad, I would say, challenges in terms of overall. Now, coming to the second part, which is that, if being a woman had additional challenges. So I would say, thankfully, I'm blessed that the kind of service sector that I'm working specifically, which is consumer insights, women are taken off very well, as in, because my field is quite, I wouldn't say dominated, but it's equal like even when I was a kid, I was um when I first came out of MBA, and my first campus placement was with Kantar, which is erstwhile IMRB. I saw equal number of men and women working, so there was no never a thought ever came across. We had equal opportunities for promotions. For our pay scales were very well defined. It had no role of gender. It was very gender neutral, and it still holds true because the category is like that. So one thing what you have to understand, Ishita, is that if you want things to be equal, then the first and the foremost thing is equal opportunity in terms of recruitment, right? Which I saw in my service sector and in my category. And therefore, it still, after almost 15 years, 16 years of my work experience, I still feel the same, that the person sitting on the other side, which is our client, mostly your MNCs like Pepsi, Coke, and others, or Nestle, or whatever, FMCG, consumer durable, they take the women giving the insights or men giving the insights equally well. So I wouldn't really say that, and that is a lot of credit goes to the sector and to the category, that they always were very knowledge centric. They were very gender agnostic, neutral, gender neutral, so to say. But I would tell you the challenges that I faced on the manufacturing Indian startup, right? Because I believe that's where things are not right still. And I would really want you to know them, so that through you can pass on these challenges to other women also. And they kind of understand that how the ecosystem works, right? So now let me tell you that I was handling the product side on this Indian startup, right? And it is on the manufacturing side. Now on the manufacturing side, on the factory premise side specifically, there is a lot of power game that goes on. Now power, it's a soft power, that if you are a man, then the instructions that you're giving, or the work that you're doing, that is taken more seriously, versus if you're a woman and you have subordinates who are men, it is a little difficult for them to take, let's say, you bit more seriously. That again, I am talking about 5 years from 5 years back scenario. Things are changing even on the Indian startup side. Now, one is that your own factory premise, right, which is more the workforce per se is more men, and that's also by the nature of the work. I do believe that, if there is a loading unloading work, then you should deploy more men than women, and if it is a packaging kind of a work, then you can deploy women versus men, right? So that kind of clarity should also be there in the HR, that there are certain roles, no matter what we say about gender equality, are suited for a particular gender. Right. Now, having said that, one is on your own factory premise side, wherein there is a power centric game where being a woman, at least 5 years back, was slightly disadvantaged. Now things are changing. But I would also like to tell you on the supplier side, right? On the supplier side, it's again a industry which is extremely dominated by men, right? All our suppliers, like raw material providers, even logistic partners, every other person was uh, I would say more men. In fact, to the tune of 80 to 90% were men, and only 10% females you would come across. Now, I would say that itself is a challenge, right? Unless you fix that ratio, there will be many women who will not like to join such a business or such a division, right? Like, for example, if today I want to set up a raw material supplying setup, right? If I see that there are 10 people who are already doing this in my category, where pulp or sap or let's say glue is the raw material. So if I pick anything, let's say glue, right? I would like to look at 10 other suppliers. And if all 10 of them are men, led by men, and their teams are also all comprising of men, then I am on the back foot in any case, right? And if the client side, the buyer side is also men, then so there is an entire ecosystem where it is more of a men to men talk, right? Where is the entry for the women? I mean, it there is, but it is difficult, right? And it's not difficult just because the other men are saying that we are not going to buy from the women or we are not going to sell to the women. It's not nothing like that really, but it is very inherent in every human being that I will start to look. For example, I just gave you an example of consumer insights industry, right? Now think of you, Ishita, as a young kid, right? Now if you are given an opportunity to make a career in consumer insights versus if you're given an opportunity to make a career on the manufacturing side, maybe you would like to choose consumer insight, not because it is your preference, but because there are more women over there and you feel more comfortable and you feel that the environment is more safe, the environment is more conducive for a woman to work. So that's what I'm saying, that it's not that men are not wanting women to work, or uh, they are not taking you seriously. It's about time that the ecosystem itself is such that I as a woman don't feel very comfortable working in that setup. And again, my chances of succeeding, my chances of getting promoted, my chances of getting higher pay packages are more on the sides of consumer insight kind of categories, where I know that the precedence itself is of equality, versus on the manufacturing side, because then there are certain biases which are already in place. Like for example, I often hear people say, oh, logistics hai ye to isme to females can't do well. Right now, I have fought against these biases, right, in the product side or on the manufacturing side, which was a more of a men-driven vertical. Even within the Indian startup that I was part of, I kind of proved it that a woman can equally do better. In fact, can do better or can do equally good if you give an opportunity, right? So there is no reason for you to have those biases when it comes to work. But I would say it's more the problem of more than the mindsets. I would say the ecosystem, the way how historically we've been, wherein in manufacturing or on the logistics side or on the warehouse side or on the supplier side or on the raw material side, it's predominantly men. It itself is a challenge, I would put it like that. I hope I've answered that.
No, no, you've really rightly said. Even I believe that such biases, and you said the ecosystem, it really becomes difficult. And there's some research as well says that where women and men are there in such fields. So the chances of women succeeding becomes less because they definitely give preference to men. So I really believe that such things will need time to get better, and there are still some years for things to get equal for both men and women. And
I would say, sorry, I'm interrupting you in between. I would just say, not some years. The ideology has to change right away. Because if your ideologies are fixed, that, equal opportunity, equal promotion, equal salary, everything about equal, then, it may take a year to fix, it may take 10 years to fix, but at least your ideology is right, right? So if we are pretty much living in the world where the ideologies cannot be wrong, right? What I'm saying is ecosystem right now is not conducive or supportive, which will take its, like, for example, if the ratio is 80-20 today in favor of men, it will not overnight become 50-50, right? It will take its own time of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But somebody has to say that, hey, if you're recruiting, I don't want any gender biasness over there. That ideology has to set in right away. And at most places, I've seen that, those things are changing. Yes, there are traditional manufacturing setups wherein these things still need to change. That's how I would put it.
yeah, and I think it's just our voices which can change it, which can make changes. My final question to you is, what message would you like to share with women who aspire to start their own startups and businesses, but they feel hesitant to take the first step?
So very clear on that, follow your heart. And I would say, if you have an idea, let's say you believe into it first. The first and the foremost thing is that you need to believe into your idea and give it some time, give it some thought, discuss it with people. And then I can say there are many opportunities. There are a lot of schemes that even government of India has for women entrepreneurs, which they don't have for men entrepreneurs, by the way. So read about it. Awareness is something. So there are a lot of things that, the ecosystem has been set up now to help women entrepreneurs. Read about it. It's there on internet. There are many schemes, right? If you want to take advantage of them, take advantage of them. They will help you out, right? If you don't, even then, uh, it isn't about a women entrepreneur or men entrepreneur. You need to gather as much as information as you possibly can, because that will be the key to the success. And don't be hesitant just because you think you are women. In fact, quite often I've seen that, while you may think of it as a disadvantage that you are fewer in number as compared to men entrepreneurs, but it also acts to your advantage, right? When you are fewer in number, you are kind of taken more seriously at times also, right? So don't be hesitant just because you belong to a particular gender. In fact, take that thing completely out of your mind. It should just be about your idea and about the hard work and time that you're going to put into it. That will really make it succeed. So don't be hesitant about thinking that, should I take that first step or not? Because see, if you're on the bridge and you've not taken the plunge, you will never know whether you'll, drown or you will start to swim well. So only when you take that plunge, that's when you will know that how it will go through. So my message to you would be, take that plunge. Don't sit on the fence and think whether I should or I should not. The only way to test an idea is to put it into the life. Either it will fail or it will succeed. Either ways you will learn. I can tell you that I have learned a lot from my previous experience as well, from being an employee in a startup as well. And now that I'm running my own thing, it has helped me immensely, both those things. So just take the plunge.
Thank you so much. That was really very inspiring. I mean, the kind of phrases and the words you've said, that we should take the plunge, and that's really
Believe in
motivating.
yourself. That's most important. I think I didn't mention it in very clear words, but you have to believe in yourself, in your idea, and that's the most important thing. And keep believing. Like, there are enough reasons why people will tell you, the world will tell you that no, it is not working out, but you have to believe in it and also set a timeline, right? You cannot believe in it endlessly.
Yeah.
right? So give it some time, a year, 2 year, dedicate to it, and then see very practically, very objectively, assess if it is going ahead, not going ahead, and then take the call. That's what mature people do.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are deeply grateful for your time and valuable insights you have shared with us. It's been a true honor to learn from your experiences and wisdom. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ishita. Once again, thank you for having me on board and wish you all the best for DhanSarthi. Please do reach out in future also if I can help in any manner.
Thank you so
Would
much.
love to.